Magic the Gathering's 2021 holiday promo card has just been revealed, and I have to say, it is delightfully quirky. But at the same time, if used to full effect, this card is also incredibly broken.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered to talk about an amazing new Magic card. Now, if you are new to the game, you may not be aware that Wizards of the Coast has an awesome tradition of creating once a year at the very end of the year special holiday themed Magic cards that are based around the winter holidays. And I am a huge fan of this concept, and I'm also relieved to see that this promo is indeed silver bordered. I had my concerns. Now that we're living in this era of secret layers, things like the silver bordered cards are becoming more of a rarity as Wizards of the Coast is trying to aim more towards black bordered cards to get them into more people's decks. But the silver bordered cards exist more in a realm of silliness, and the holiday cards have always had a silly aspect to them in a number of different ways, which we are obviously going to dive into with this year's offering, Last Minute Shopping. So you can see right away that the name is a play on last minute shopping, which is something I'm assuming a lot of us are very familiar with. I know I've always been pretty bad for procrastinating going out and getting gifts and everything, and at the last minute you're like, oh no, it's time for some make-do gifts. I'm a bad person. You know, it's a very human kind of thing. So what does the card do? Well, one black, one blue, and one for a sorcery that says, ask target opponent if they remembered to get you a present. If they say yes, they put a card they own from outside the game into your hand. Otherwise, you gain control of target permanent they control. So on the surface, it's already pretty silly. A Magic card where you ask your opponent, hey, did you get me a present? Did you remember to get me a present? Right? You got to make sure you have to say the phrase right. Did you remember to get me a present? And then they have to respond with either yes, followed by the action of putting a card into your hand, or you get a permanent of your choice that they control, which is bonkers. That's why this card is busted. When I say used to full effect, this card is busted, I mean if you get to steal target permanent with this card, if they do not say yes and put a card in your hand, and you actually get to use this card to full effect, it's bonkers broken. 3 mana to permanently steal one of your opponent's permanents in an irreversible fashion. And by reversible, I mean, you know, let's say you play an enchantment, or I have a creature that says, I get your dude until you get rid of my creature. Like, there's a lot of temporary taking your stuff, but this is permanent and only for 3 mana. Normally in Magic, if you're permanently going to gain control of something, it's going to cost you 6 or 7 mana. And a lot of the times with 6, it's still just an enchantment or something like that, right? So this is incredibly powerful on the full scale of it. But of course, that does require that your opponent doesn't say yes and put a card into your hand. Now, there's a couple things I want to cover about that. The first is, this doesn't specify Magic cards. So if somebody played this against me and like, did you get me a present? And I'd be like, I sure did. And I go, boom, here you go. And I pull this out. I'm like, what's that? I'm like, it's my business card. Do you know what I mean? It's a card. You can put it in your hand. You can technically get away with that kind of nonsense. In fact, if you want to get really technical on the other side of it, you can get technical with the card and be like, here you go, here's a card, or here's a Star Trek card, or here's a Force of Will card, Flesh and Blood, whatever game you want. You can just shove a random card into their hand. But also, as the person playing it, if you want to get really technical, if I'm playing this card and I say to you, hey, did you remember to get me a present? And then you go, uh-huh. Oh, you didn't say yes, right? Because it says if they said yes, they put a card they own from outside the game into your hand. Otherwise, so they have to say the word yes as part of this. any other response, and you can get all technical and be like, you didn't say yes, so you don't get to put a card in my hand, and I do get that permanent. Although, I mean, we're getting into levels of being like insanely particular here, right? Now, in terms of the card that gets put into your hand, you don't get to keep it. You don't own it. You just have it in your hand for the rest of the game. I mean, unless you play it or discard it. But it's not your property. It belongs to the person who gave it to you. So it's not really like full on a gift, but Wizards of the Coast shies away from cards that harken to the olden days where we actually played for each other cards. However, there is one Magic card that is based on giving cards to your opponent permanently for them to own. And because this made me think of it, we're talking about unfun, I wanted to show you guys this in case you haven't seen it. This is the Collector Protector. He's 2 white and 3 for a 2/5 human gamer. You give your opponent a non-land card you own from outside the game, pay 1 mana, and you prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you or Collector Protector this turn. So literally, the concept behind this card is I can prevent damage, but each point of damage I want to prevent, I literally have to transfer possession of one of my Magic cards from me to you. And you look at the artwork and you can see this guy has huge stacks of Magic cards in the background, right? There's so many of them, just towers of cards. And you can also see that there is a unhinged booster, or is that an unglued booster? No, that's an unglued booster, isn't it? That's an unglued booster that's being opened up like Booster Tutor style. But anyways, you look at the flavor text and it says, here, have a mud hole. Did you know Mudhole is a rare from Magic? Let's take a look at the card that's being given away too in this case because it's hilarious. Mudhole, 1 red and 2 for an instant. Target player removes all land cards in his or her graveyard from the game. How awful is that, right? That's a genuinely terrible Magic card that's only useful against really niche and particular decks. And when this card was made, none of those niche decks where you'd want this ability even existed. This is one of the worst Magic cards ever made. So the idea of like, here, have a mud hole is hilarious. Anyhow, that's the aside that I wanted to share on this card because the whole like giving your opponent your cards kind of thing tied into it. But either way, taking a look at the flavor concept of this card, it's absolutely amazing. Instead of last minute shopping, you have last minute chopping. And in the artwork, it depicts the, what are they? I believe they're twins, the brothers and sisters at the very least, all right? So this is Gisa and Giraffe, and they are both necromancers, but they don't really get along very well. They always end up getting into battles. I'm going to be real, it's mostly Gisa's fault. She's a little bit crazier than her brother. So she's about animating up zombies. Just boom, I'm going to bring zombies up. Did somebody just die over there? Great. Raise their body up, use it as is, right? Where Giraffe is one of the Innistrad Stitcher style zombie masters. So he does it more along the lines the same way that Dr. Frankenstein did, making Frankenstein's monster, where he will take choice parts from different beings and kind of stitch them together. So the ongoing feud between them is hilarious. There actually is a story from Innistrad, the recent Innistrad, that covers this, where Gisa's basically bored and keeps writing him letters saying, let's have another fight. I loved it when we fought before. And he's basically like, no, you're crazy. Stay away from me. Leave me alone. Don't come to where I am. Do not. And she's like, oh, I'm going to come visit. He's like, no, stay away. Like it's a hilarious relationship between the two. And so in this, you have kind of the fun concept of she's got a nice gift for her brother, but you can see it's very last minute because take a look at it, right? You've got the wrapped up arm and you can see Giraffe is very happy about it because it makes perfect sense. It's like, hey, I love stitching bodies together. Giving me a new arm to slap on one of my zombies? What an amazing and thoughtful gift. But then right behind her back, you can see she's got the axe with some ichor just kind of like dripping off it. And that's because if you look even further in the background, you can see the zombie that she got the arm from. She's like, oh no, I need a holiday gift. And she just runs over there, wah-wah, and cuts the guy's arm off. And it's slowly shambling forward, probably, oh, I want my arm back. And she's just like, too late. I gave it as a present to my brother. I love it. The flavor text says, dear brother, I couldn't forget you if I tried. And I have tried. They have like a sarcastic, oppositional sort of relationship. But I do also love that like this is set against a nice sort of holiday winter background, right? You got a cozy little cabin in the back there. Everything is strewn with snow. It's gently drifting down in the moonlight. And it's just supposed to be a moment of a brother and sister sharing gifts, which is, it's cool. And then contrasted against the zombie concept. I love it. This is a really well executed card. The whole thing ties together pretty well in terms of like, did you get me a present? I sure did. Here you go. And they just give you something. And if they didn't give you a present, the idea of getting one of their permanents is just like they quickly look around their house and they're like, yeah, I got you. I definitely got you a present. Here you go. So I don't know, man. Either way, I really like the card. I think it's a lot of fun, and I wanted to talk about it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big thank you to all my patrons for supporting my channel, and I'll leave some fun links up on the screen for you. And if you need some not quite last minute gifts for people you know, maybe get them some of my merch. I got sleeves, I got playmats, I got some nice clothing as well. It's all up to you. Anyhow, see you next time, my friends.